dark, dark tomb there was a dark, dark street, and in the dark, dark street there was a dark, dark office. In the dark, dark office there were some dark, dark stairs, and down the dark, dark stairs there was a dark, dark room, and in the dark, dark room was where the worst wrestling tropes go to die.
Hello, I'm Ross Tweddell from Cultaholic Wrestling, and welcome to the latest instalment of Straight to Hell, the show, of course, where my illustrious guest offers up a list of their pet peeves from the world of professional wrestling, and then they all get sent down straight to hell to rot for the rest of eternity. Joining us today is a man who you all know for better or for worse, but for better, in my opinion, because first of all, I loved Ready to Rumble, and second of all, it wasn't his fault he was made WCW World Champion. If Eric Bischoff came to you and said, "Hello, Joe Bloggs, do you want to become WCW World Champ?" you would say yes as well, wouldn't you? I would too. I am, of course, speaking about the illustrious David Arquette. Now, yesterday, November the 23rd, a film called You Cannot Kill David Arquette was released on all kinds of digital platforms. If you want to see it, there's all kinds of details in the description box down below. Honestly, I've seen it, and I'm not just saying this because he's here speaking to me on this video. It's well worth a watch. It's an inspirational story where, against all adversity, you can do anything if you put your mind to it, including having a match, a death match, by the way, against Nick Gage. Exactly. How more inspirational can you get? That over to David and Ross. Okay then, so we're joined by David Arquette. David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Ross?
I can't believe I'm sat here. I think I'm one of the few people in the world alive today who is a massive fan of Ready to Rumble. So the fact I'm sat here speaking to the law, having grown up, it's a pinch yourself moment, to be honest with you.
I love that. Thank you.
No problem. I think it's a fantastic film, no matter what anyone says. But anyway, I need to first of all, obviously, congratulate you on the movie that we're here to speak about today. You Cannot Kill David Arquette. It's a fantastic, raw and candid. I think it's a love letter from yourself to professional wrestling. It's up there with the Jake the Snake Roberts documentary for me in terms of, like, yes, it's got pro wrestling at its core, but anybody, no matter what your interest is, you're going to be interested in this film because the story's just so good. But I need to ask you, my main takeaway from the film comes from when we go to the convention and we see you taking a picture with New Jack, and you allow New Jack to hold a blade to your throat. So I just want you to take me into the sort of the thought process of allowing New Jack to hold a blade to your throat.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I did a lot of things in this film that are questionable. For sure. You know, it's funny you say that about Ready to Rumble, because I looked at it sort of, you know, on the comic side as kind of a unofficial sequel to it. I tried to get Scott Conn to be in it, but he was all like shy. But DDP's in it, and you know, so I definitely wanted to have fun. You know, the funny thing about what happened in WCW 20 years ago when I won the championship, I think like the idea behind the promotion and me to go on it and promote the film Ready to Rumble was that I was the law at the end of the film, and then I was a wrestler. So they thought it'd be fun to kind of like blend that like world, but it didn't work out so well.
I tell you, the only thing that was missing was you actually doing an entrance on Nitro up the ramp on that motorbike. That would have changed everything.
I know, absolutely. I mean, I would have done it.
But I tell you what, it's obviously been over 20 years now since Ready to Rumble came out. I'm gutted there hasn't been a sequel. But now, obviously, with the way the wrestling world is, we see old-timers come back and wrestle for WWE in Saudi Arabia against The Undertaker and stuff like that. So we've got to know, is the law potentially going to come back for a match in Saudi Arabia against The Undertaker? It's the natural sequel for me.
Oh man, I don't know. I think the bigger companies were kind of scared of me still. They think I have like the I don't know, all the baggage that came along with what happened when I went to WCW the last time. So I don't know if they're scared or not, but I'm glad that my wrestling like return is sort of captured in this movie and it lives there. I don't know if I'm ever really going to wrestle anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, if people are worried about the baggage, they just need to watch this film, because the stuff you put your body through it's unbelievable just sat there watching, especially in the face of adversity, obviously being 46, I think you were when the film starts, when the story starts in the film, and then the health issues and the mental health issues. I just think it's a wonderfully inspiring thing.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah. it captured my life at this point where a lot of things were coming together, a lot of, you know, a life of abuse, like just beating myself up, sort of was all coming together, a lot of therapy, and I really learned a lot. It was a crazy process, and I didn't know that that's what this film was going to capture when we started out doing it, but it did. But I learned a lot about myself, a lot about, you know, believing in myself and having self-confidence. You know, my thing's like, everyone said that I'm not a champion, but my philosophy is that you're a champion. I'm a champion. We're all champions of our world. You're the greatest in your world. Don't let anyone tell you differently. So that was a big lesson I had to learn.
Yeah, I related heavily to some of the stuff you were sort of speaking about in terms of anxiety and having self-confidence issues, because I've just had to take a break from work there because it was all getting too much for me, but having to sort of take a step back and do something about it. So how are you today in terms of all the anxiety and stuff?
You know, it's always a roller coaster. There's hard times and there's, you know, but listen, everyone's going through a really hard time right now. I feel for so many people out there, but, you know, you just have to, you can't on top of it then beat yourself up. That's the big lesson for me. You know, find ways to do it. A lot of like, just even like a hike, getting out, just walking, you know, anything to just break it up, get your heart moving. That's been really helpful for me recently.
Or just pump yourself full of ketamine, as we see in the film. That is one of the rawest moments of the film. It's an unbelievable. If there's one thing to see from a realism aspect and a relatable aspect, is to watch that, because it's hard to watch, but it's also like it's just eye opening. Talk me through that. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. You know, there's a couple of ways they do ketamine. They're looking at a lot of treatments. I mean, even like psilocybin mushrooms have shown a lot of benefits for antidepressant recently. But, you know, with the ketamine, it's a little dangerous because it gets, you know, I have addiction issues. So one of the things it does do is it resets your neuroreceptors.
Yeah.
So if you are going to, you know, stop drinking or doing stuff like that, it's you know, you might want to think of that right before. I don't know, I'm not a doctor, so consult a doctor. But what it did for me was it did really help. But what really helped, aside from what you saw them sort of put a bunch on me and then I kind of go out. But I did a couple sessions where I had a therapist there and I was on ketamine and just having a therapy session and sort of getting all this stuff out. And I had this one moment where I was thinking about my parents and their marriage and how rough it was sometimes. And then I realized that they're both dead. All of this heaviness and this pain is just inside me, you know? So it actually helped to lift it. And, you know, I can hardly watch that scene, to be honest, because it's pretty raw. I mean, it's very raw. And there's a lot of stuff in the movie I kind of have a hard time watching. But I did want to be really open and vulnerable. I wanted to sort of, you know, if anybody else was out there going through similar stuff, that they could see, you know, me going through it so they wouldn't feel like they're alone, kind of thing. But I also don't care what anybody says anymore. You know, that's a big part of it. Like when you start, I mean, I can say that, but sometimes things rub me wrong. But I try not to let it affect me. I try not to, like, you know, take what they say. Like, I had a hard time reading as a kid, and I was thinking also about this teacher that used to make me go up in front of class and read, and I get all like knotted up. And I ended up going through my whole life telling myself that I was stupid. And it was just something like I would just tell myself all the time. But I had to stop that. You know what I mean? I'm not stupid. I have trouble reading sometimes, but it's really important not to, like, you know, have these negative reinforcement things that you keep telling yourself. And if you can spot them when they start happening, it's a lot easier to put them aside, you know, put them in their place and just not give them the power that I had been.
I completely hear where you're coming from, because I was going through a sort of little course of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, to sort of change those messages as well. And it's that scene being in the film was definitely a very good thing to do, and I commend you for putting it in there, because a lot of people wouldn't do that they would just like sort of hide that away and just like maybe sort of pretend to the world that it's not happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, people pretend to the world all these things. It's one of my least favorite things, especially about Hollywood. Like, all these people have such facades and like, this is who we are, or like, we'll show you this much of us. And I like people that are real. I like, you know, being vulnerable, being honest, you know. I like to stand up now. You know what I mean? I don't want to cower anymore. I don't want to hide behind anything.
It's liberating. It certainly is. But you spoke about the things you couldn't watch in the film. What else were you struggling to watch?
New Jack holding up my
just like a flaw.
There's a death match in there that really is very rough for me to watch. And, you know, our dear friend Luke Perry driving me to the hospital with Jungle Boy Jack Perry. You know, stuff like that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
And some of the, like, me being messed up a couple times in it, it's pretty hard for me to watch.
Yeah, I bet it is. But speaking about Jungle Jack, you mentioned at the start of this interview that you weren't going to return to wrestling, and that's a dagger to my heart, because the way that movie ends, with you in the ring with Jack, and you speak about his dad, and that relationship's very real, and he almost cries. It made me want you to pitch an angle to AEW to get involved with Jungle Jack somehow. Just one angle, just one that lasts a month or something like that. You need to do it. You've got to do it.
Oh, I mean, you know, there's a lot of politics in the sort of higher up categories of wrestling, and you know, I'll always support Jack. I think personally he's going to be a movie star. The kid's like got such charisma, and the way he handled the death of his father with such grace and, like, you know, strength without like trying to be tough or anything. He's really a brilliant guy. Never drank, never smoked. He's just got his head on his shoulders really well. So I love Jack. I'd do anything for him. But that kind of was the pinnacle of what I wanted to achieve. I mean, through the whole process, what it really did was bring me back in touch with Luke right before his passing. And we didn't know that was going to happen, obviously. And the fact that happened is kind of, you know, made like the film sort of, I'm just grateful to wrestling to have brought us back, because I hadn't seen him since Alexis, my brother, had passed. So I don't know. I would love to do something. I mean, I love the world of wrestling, but honestly, it's so painful to do. It's like to take I've never had the experience of like going to a real, you know, the real, like, I trained with Peter Avalon, who's an incredible trainer, who's doing really amazing stuff right now on AEW himself. He's like this, like big lover boy now. I love this new angle they're doing with him. But you know, he's incredible. He was an incredible trainer. But I never had to go to a sports center and, like, you know, be able to flip into, like, you know, the foam balls and all this stuff, like, you know, do all the things that I would love to have had the opportunity to do so I could notch it up. Because a lot of the things I see the guys do, I know I can do, but it just, you know, I had to do all this stuff kind of on my own. I had to, you know, I did go to a gymnast, really great, like Russian gym teacher, and train a few times with him just to get sort of balance and some of the flipping and stuff down. But I'd love to do it on that elevated level. So if I ever were to wrestle again, I'd want to do it properly, where I'd have a proper, like, training with some of the greats that are there that could really walk me through. And, you know, wrestling's really weird unless you get in the ring. And even every time you get in the ring, you learn something else. Like, you know, a wrestler will never say something hurts. You know, they'll say that sucks. You know, it sucks. How's your neck? Oh, it sucks. But they'll never say it hurts, because, like, it's a tough guy thing, I think. But you have to learn little things like that. like Nick Gage said, this is the part where the ultra violence happens. I was like, well, I'm pretty sure this whole thing is going to be ultra violent. But I didn't know that meant something kind of specific to him. So it's really weird. You got to, like, really kind of, you know, wait, what's that mean? You know, the way the kibosh on him and all this. Sometimes it's like little CARNY language too. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we had a little experience at a previous job where we ran we helped sort of put on wrestling shows, and the language is something, and the sort of etiquette backstage of having to go around and actually shake everybody's hand no matter how many times you see them. All stuff like that is stuff you don't know when you get in there, you just sort of have to pick it up as you go along.
Yeah, totally. No one really walked me through all that kind of stuff. So I hope I didn't offend anyone when I was going around, because I also get this thing where I almost feel like a kid going into school for the first time. I'm like, nice to meet you. Sometimes I don't know some of the legends or the guys who might have been bigger. I don't know. If you stay out of wrestling for 2 months, you might miss someone's career, and they might have had some spike moment. So you don't know the lineage, if they're related to people or this or that. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff to try to figure out. And then there's all this thing about no selling. Tommy Dreamer was talking about this thing, and he's like, I no sold him, and he's not even talking about in the ring. He was like, I walked in and I no sold him in a conversation or something, and I'm like, wait, that's the thing? What do you mean? You ignored him? I'm just so naive. I'm the worst kind of I'm a great wrestling fan because I'm essentially a mark, and I believe it all and I love it all, and I'm cheering for the good guys and booing them, really hating the bad guys. But when it becomes when it's really who you are, it becomes hard, because you're you take things personally, and you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. It's hard to hit. I don't want to hurt you, but you gotta really kind of hit them. It's bizarre. So I'm not sure I'm really born to be a wrestler. I really enjoyed that moment in time, and I'm glad I was able to go back and sort of, I don't know, just stand up for myself, because I was sick of getting bullied.
Yeah, because the whole sort of story and the reason you got into wrestling, or back into wrestling, I should say, is to clear your name, you kept saying, after the WCW World title win. But I would, the bit with Eric Bischoff at the start of the film where he says to you, right to your face, you can blame all me for that. Did that not mean anything to you? Did that not sort of make you think, yeah, it's the booker's fault? Am I meant to say no when I'm a fan and someone says, do you want to become WCW World Champion? If someone said that to me, I'd be saying, yes, I do. Thank you. So did Bischoff's words at the start not sort of give you any sort of closure? Or were you sort of just set on doing it?
No, it did. It did a lot. And talking to Russo too, I went and I met with Russo and talked with him. See, a lot of people give him a hard time too, but Eric Bischoff's one of my favorite people. He's just such a incredible guy. We've produced something together as well, and just working with him, he's just such a professional, really smart guy, really good heart, great kid. His son Garrett's an amazing guy. So just really good people. Yeah, so I know it wasn't my fault. It's still fun. I kind of love it now, because now it's all just kind of crazy, and it's all kind of funny, because there's an undertone of all of this that I loved Andy Kaufman. You know what I mean? And he was an actor that wrestled, but he really loved wrestling. It's sort of where I'm coming from, and there's this real must even I'm trying to do it even more. That you don't know what's wrestling and what's not. You know what I mean? What's a work and what's not. So there's that going on within this film too. And people, especially people who are really wise to the business, can really see a lot through some stuff or some things. It's weird, because it was this real cross section of we show behind the curtain in this one moment with RJ City that some people have gotten a problem with, because think it's kind of exposing the business. Although I asked Yuma and Nick, the ref and the producer of the segment, that if it was all right to do that. And they said it had been done before and that they didn't have a problem with it. And it was sort of RJ's idea to kind of break it down in this really, classical music way. Mm-hmm. It was really interesting, and I did want people to have sort of a taste of the experience that I was going through, and give wrestling fans a little more of because they are really smart now. We really do know a lot of what's going on. Even most wrestling fans are far smarter than I've ever been about it. They really know like all these things and all the history of it and all the twists and turns. So we wanted to give them the feel of really being part of it from my point of view.
Yeah, I don't think you've got anything to worry about there. It's not 1989 anymore. And I'm glad you mentioned Andy Kaufman's name there, because when I flicked on the film last night to watch it, I did not expect to see you dressed like Andy Kaufman, all in white like he used to when he wrestled Jerry the King Lawler, in a backyard wrestling match. I don't think you got paid for it, and you were getting smashed with light tubes and all sorts of stuff. And on top of that, you were taking sort of inspiration from Fantasio was his name, I think it was, from the mid-90s, the magician WWF gimmick, shooting things out your hands. That's the thing I didn't expect to see happen. So where did all that come from? How did that become a package as a wrestling gimmick?
You're so funny that you're throwing all those things, because it is kind of like that. It's little things from all over the place that I was kind of things that I had loved about wrestling growing up, and things that I loved as a kid, because I love magic, and I think magic's like got so many cool things to sort of dive into. And you know, I still think they don't incorporate quite enough magic into wrestling. I don't think they incorporate quite enough like circus balancing and acrobatics into wrestling. I think they could really notch it up even more. But I don't know. I just kept coming up with the Magic Man idea. I wanted to come out to Hart's Magic Man with the like a great guitar, and Kevin Nash was there at that first wrestling convention that I went to, where nobody knew who I was or anything in the movie. But I told him about it. He's like, "Oh yeah, that would be great to have that guitar to come out to," but we couldn't afford the song. So if you want to play it back at some point and put in Heart on my backyard wrestling intro. But that was a really great experience. You know, it was like this really great experience. It was crazy. It was, but we wanted to start sort of, a lot of wrestlers now come out of that world. I, even kind of, some of my first things were messing around in my backyard onto a mattress and smashing my head, like if you didn't hit the mattress completely. And, so I wanted to honor that too. We wanted to, look into that world and then go into the lucha world where we go down to Tijuana, and then I had my match with RJ and then go all the way into the independent scene. That was so interesting, and it was cool. Like, as we were going through, there are all these wrestlers that are starting to like pop into the big leagues. It was like this really cool experience to watch these guys like Darby Allin then go on to become the new AEW champion, which is so incredible for him. Such a great guy.
Yeah, RJ City must be the next one to sort of have that big moment. Surely.
I know. I do not understand. Like, I think his gimmick's too good. Like, people like, I don't know if, he lives his gimmick to a certain extent. He really does love all the things he talks about. And he is kind of, he's a nice guy, but he's got a heel cynicism to him that never leaves. So, I don't know. I hope one of the big places kind of really get where he's coming from. But on the other end, I don't think RJ honestly loves getting slammed around and beat up too much. He loves wrestling, but he can avoid a bump. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A
few times I was like, I'll take the heat. I'll be in there for the getting beat up part, and then. He was like, okay, he did. He's a funny character, but he actually did take a lot of the heat when we wrestled together.
And finally, just before we get going with the straight to hell portion of the show, I've got to ask you, between the sort of ready to rumble and being on set with all the wrestlers, and from WCW saying, we've got to make you champion, if you do become champion, you can stay around and you can come on the road with us and fly with us in aeroplanes and stuff. Do you have any sort of stories but from the behind the scenes that you could share with us? Because I'm really intrigued. I was just watching Ready to Rumble last night as well, and the cutscene, the outtake when Jimmy the King actually punches Macho Man. What was that? What was that like when that happened?
It was so cool. I mean, when I read the script and it said Macho Man Randy Savage on like page 8, I was like, wait, I called my agent. I was like, is he really going to be in this? Like, they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I got to meet him. And that was just thrilling. Like, just seeing him, like meeting him, and said he talks the same way like you always think you would talk, you know, just even explaining, oh, I lived down in Tampa or St. Pete, I don't know what he said, Sarasota or whatever he said. But he was like, oh, that was amazing. I do a horrible Macho Man impression, but that was amazing. I mean, getting to like drink with Ric Flair in a bar, you know, going to Rick and say, Rick, what do I do now after I won the championship? You take the belt to the bar and you buy everyone drinks. You know, moments like that I'll never forget. I mean, that was really, and you know, even though Rick's kind of harsh to me in the movie, he, you know, he put his arm around me at a bar one time. He goes, listen, fellas, he's one of us. Oh, but this is my favorite story. This is my favorite story of the whole experience. Was the first day of filming, we get in a fight, which is in the movie with the Nasty Boys. Yeah. Jerry Sags and Brian Knobs, and Jerry Sags got pissed off, understandably so, because we were filming. They didn't ask anybody. I didn't know they were all going around the whole bar. So they got pissed and broke our camera. We got in a fight, you know, a guy grabs my neck, and I looked up at him, and he had this big long beard, and I didn't know what was going on, but I grabbed him by the beard and I said, if you don't let go of my neck. And his girlfriend punched me, and so that was the first day of shooting. It was so crazy, and everyone got pissed. But then they walked us over to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and I got taken to wrestler court, which is something I never knew about. Wrestler court is when there's in the locker room, typically, if there's a dispute, they'll take it to the sort of most senior wrestler, and he'll sort of become the judge and jury of. So that was pretty cool, just being taken to Ricky Steamboat, even though I lost the case. And that's why everybody drinks his food. It was kind of just an epic moment, and just that, I guess, would be one of my favorites.
So was that just about the fight with Brian Knobs? That why you went the rest of
No, yeah, that was it.
Right then, so let's move on to the straight to hell portion of the show. You've got 3, 4, 5, whoever we get in the time remaining. You've come prepared with notes, I believe, which is a rarity for Straight to Hell. So if I said to you, David Arquette, you could send anything from professional wrestling, either life as a wrestler or as grown up as a fan, you could send it straight to hell, what would it be?
Definitely just in this climate of this world right now, it's just racism. The racism that exists within the wrestling world, but also just within the world. Like, it's, you know, a big wake-up call for everybody, like, just to be cool, man. You know what I mean? You're the greatest in your world. I'm the greatest in mine. Let's respect everybody. You know, there's a lot of, like, cutthroat stuff, and that goes to my number 2, which is the CARNY backstabbing. There's this, like, thing where I don't get, where, I don't know, people are, like, they'll say something to you. I guess it's just life too. I mean, they'll say something to you, but it happens a lot in wrestling. And then it just, you know, it won't be either true or they'll do something to kind of throw you off, or I don't know. There's a lot of things that happen in a wrestling ring. Like, people teach you lessons, like, oh, let me teach this kid, like, you want to wrestle, okay? And just, like, wrap you up and, like, just put you through the ringer. There's things like that I don't know, not my favorite part of it.
So to go back to the racism, is this something you saw quite a bit of when you were doing the rounds on the circuit? Because obviously we see certain things in mainstream wrestling, certain tropes that haven't gone away from the business in certain angles. Like there was the Triple H and Booker T one from WrestleMania 19, where that had serious racial undertones. Is that something you saw quite a bit of when you were doing the tours around?
No, I mean, you know, just the lack of diversity in general with champions, and you know, and it's getting a little better, but in general, I don't know. It's more so like just, you know, we just had an election here, and you know, 70 million people voted for a clear racist. So I don't know. Maybe everybody out there who's watching on, you know, the internet would be mad at me for saying something like that. But I don't know. It's just like, I just, in general, you know, there's a lot of times when you are going on the indie circuit and you're looking around, you're like, oh, you know, you get why, you know, Trump was president here. You know what I mean? So just in general, in the wrestling fans, all of the people, just people in general, racism is, you know, horrible. Yeah. You know, let's figure this out. Let's like start treating each other with respect. I don't know. Who am I to say? But that's what I feel. You know, because I meet all the wrestling fans, and I love these people I'm meeting city to city, and I you know, I don't know.
And so I
didn't necessarily see any sort of racism. I mean, you know, I guess it's everywhere, really.
Yeah. And just in terms of wrestling, I don't know if this is a question that could even be answered. If I was to say to you, what is the fix? Is it just putting more spotlight on sort of different people and different ethnicities and stuff like that, and being more diverse in sort of the faces of different companies, or does it go deeper than that?
Yeah, it does. It goes deeper than that. You know what I mean? It goes, you know, it's been this injustice in general. So it's like you have to elevate people to, like, you know, high levels within the companies, with, you know, give people opportunities. Start you know, supporting wrestling promotions in different, you know, areas, just to like give them a you know, support, you know, and just I don't know, just start talking about it, start being open, you know, give even like, you know, the whole idea of you know, making champions is so that a kid can look up and say, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of the most powerful moments when I was wrestling was, and everyone was mad, and I was sitting there in the locker room with Booker T, and I was like, Booker T, how many times have you been champ? He's like, I've never been the champ. And that like shocked me. I was like, oh God. And then I got it. And then I got like, oh, that's why. You know, aside from me not having trained or anything, but people like Booker T, who's worked so hard, such an incredible person, just to not have ever had that opportunity. And you want that so that kids can see that, and like, I can be a champion someday, you know? So you want that on every level. You want people in every, you know, area to have the right opportunities.
So that was a true, because I was watching the backstage promo off you had with Booker T. So that was a true story about being in the locker room with him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Booker was the best, man. Yeah, and I went on at the mic and I went off script and I said, I don't deserve to be champion. Booker T deserves to be champion. Chris Kanyon deserves to be champion. You know, that's sort of where I went. They were like, what's he doing?
And to move things over to the sort of backstabbing, politic and nature of wrestling, let's just put you in the shoes of a 19, 20-year-old who's making his way in the wrestling business, wants to reach the very top. Would your mindset be a bit different to the one you have now, or would you, I know it's an easy thing to say, but would you be more like accepting and less like, you know, I'm going to drag you down to get past you and get up the card higher?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I mean, it's such a rough business. I'm talking a lot of trash here as far as like, you know, it's easy for me to say this stuff. I was literally given a championship belt. So it's like, you know, I see these guys and what they went through and you know, how rough it is. And you can see like, oh man, I had a few great matches with a guy named King Brian Anthony at Northeast Wrestling, who's like this incredible wrestler who's wrestled all the greats, who's just tremendous at it, and he hasn't like gotten the opportunities to go to a higher level, but he you know, he got his jaw broken his first match, and then couldn't get it operated on till later the next day. and still had to show up in the morning, help them pack the ring back up. So it's like, he just told me this story this weekend. I saw him and we did this little fun backyard party wrestling match. So yeah, so it's guys like that I don't know. It's a hard business. If people want to get into it, I wish them all the luck. It's painful as all get out. There's a lot of dues you have to pay.
Did you have to pay any of those dues coming in at 46 years old, or were you sort of just pardoned from all that? Is that the right word? Pardoned?
Listen, I've had an easy road of all of this. I mean, no one's got like a camera crew following them around just trying to be a wrestler anyway, you know. So, you know, but I've paid my dues in other areas along the way to sort of get, you know, and I've tried to along the way, you know, to help shine up sort of some wrestlers are just, I don't know. I'm always a fan at heart, so whatever I could do to kind of help, you know, in a way, not just take from it. But you know, I didn't pay many dues. You know, I helped set up a ring once at a bar wrestling. That's about, you know, not like these guys that do it for, you know, months and years. No, I've had a pretty easy road of it.
And just quickly, do you think that sort of old school mentality that you have to sort of do these things when you're first starting, do you think that's becoming a bit outdated maybe in certain circles, or do you think that's something you need to do to get that grounding before launching off your wrestling career?
There's some of this stuff that they do at the beginning. Like I got to train with Johnny Rods, which was incredible. And he was teaching me roles thanks to this incredible wrestler, also Hale Collins up from Northeast Wrestling. But I was, we did all these roles and I did it we did so many that my bursa had already, which is like a little pad on your elbow, had already been blowing up for weeks. But then it just got, you know, it had to have it removed. But, you know, he was teaching me all this stuff about like protecting yourself, and I was and all these things to do, like when you get up, like to face the wrestler and then get up from your knees, like, and it was all like this weird kind of jujitsu, like, you know, proper wrestling kind of things. And I was like, why? I didn't know why he was teaching this kind of stuff, because, you know, it's predetermined who wins and everything. But he was teaching me like how to protect yourself, because sometimes you don't know who you're in the ring with. Sometimes you don't know where it's going to go if something goes wrong. But big lesson I learned in the death match is always stick to the plan, even if things are kind of going off the rails a little, because I pulled Nick Gage's legs, which caused me to get stabbed in the neck. So you have to stick to the plan. It's a really important lesson I learned. But they all do. All along the way, there's little times where somebody's teaching you a lesson or putting you in this long, like choking you out, just almost to the point of really choking you. I mean, you're not supposed to, or people don't tell you that's going to happen all the time, but some people are a little more dangerous or got something going on inside them that they take it out on you.
And just quickly, was the finish of that Nick Gage match, because just watching it last night as part of the movie, when you do like sort of take the legs back and it goes into your neck, your reaction doesn't seem to be one that was part of what was supposed to happen. So was that sort of like just, obviously you've been stabbed in the neck, so maybe it is a stupid question to ask, but was it just sort of you reacting on the fly?
No, I wasn't supposed to pull his legs. I was getting pissed and I pulled his legs. They were essentially probably going to fight or something, but then I got stabbed in the neck. I kind of took precedent. But yeah, that was crazy experience.
At least the jugular didn't get caught like you thought initially.
Yeah, it hit
Every
my
cloud.
neck. It hit my neck muscle. I got a bunch of stickers in my neck muscle, but yeah, that was crazy.
And so what about your third thing that you'd like to send straight down to hell?
No cells. Like people who no sell people. Just don't. That's ridiculous.
Even
when somebody
hits,
hits you, sell it. You know, I get a couple of times where I got like hit somebody, they wouldn't sell it. It's just so like, it just pissed me off, to be honest. And I love selling. I think that's one of the best parts of of the sport. You know, it's this thing where you're in it. It's real. When you can make wrestling, everything going on in the ring, your emotions and your physicality and what you're experiencing real. That's one thing I had to learn. Because there's a few things like, okay, you step out of the side and push it over the rope. And I'd step and I'd just kind of push. And they're like, no, you gotta you even gotta sell like how much you're pushing them. You know what I mean? I never knew like that kind of stuff. I just was like, oh, I was always worried about hurting somebody, which is like freaking. It's supposed to be the whole opposite of it. You're supposed to want to kill these guys, you know. So I don't know. That's just another sign that I'm really not. I mean, I don't know. I am a wrestler.
You are a wrestler, of course you are.
Yes.
But just does this hatred for no selling extend to sort of gimmicks like we see the Fiend in WWE today? Does it extend to those sort of gimmicks, or do you think, oh, that sort of fits there? And like the Undertaker back in the day, I guess as well. Does that sort of fit there with you, or does it go across the board completely?
What do you mean? That kind of gimmick?
The no selling aspect of that gimmick. So when the Fiend gets hit, he no sells it, but then again, he's a big spooky character who's like mystical and all that malarkey.
Yeah, no, I mean, if it's in honor of propelling the story, and if it's sort of like understood, like my whole thing was like, I would like somebody'd rush at me and I'd move and they'd hit the turnbuckle and then I could get something over on them. I was always like, I don't want to just come out and beat somebody. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not, it's not the way. It's not the way to tell the best story from my character's point of view. So as long as it's really story based and like, getting back to telling those stories, that's when it's magical. When you can tell a story without any words really, and then you can get to the place where the people are like, when you get them into this world and then they cheering and like the whole thing, like that's where the magic of wrestling lives, and that's when wrestling fans like enjoy matches, and that's what I love about it, the connection with that audience.
And were you ever finding yourself in the ring against somebody who you might have tagged and you weren't happy with the way they sold it, so you thought, you know what, I'm going to hit you for real, because apparently that's how the wrestling works as far as I know. I might be completely wrong there, but did you ever feel the need to sort of take business into your own hands and bosh someone upside the head for real?
No, I did do something though. I did do something when somebody no-sold me hard, and it wasn't, and I had been messing up this whole match, and it was in my head too. But I tapped out when I wasn't supposed to tap out, just to end the match. And it was kind of like it kind of ruined the match. But I had done something wrong, and I'm not want to say who it was, just because I don't want to offend anyone. But I'd already been put into this position, like a submission hold. So I did something and I messed it up, and it got me back into that submission hold. So I didn't know. I didn't know if am I supposed to get out of this twice? I was kind of confused, and so I just like sold that it really, really hurt, and it kind of did. My back was really jacked up, and everything's hurting at that point. So I tapped out when I wasn't supposed to, and the ref and the guy was fighting was like, "What the hell?" But it was fine. But I felt horrible about it. It was during my whole downward slide, so it was like a pretty messy, like, after the match, a couple days of like beating myself up. Yeah.
And so, what's your fourth offering there to go straight down to hell?
That Hollywood doesn't understand or respect the value of wrestlers and wrestling. That The Rock's one of the biggest stars in the world, and the fact that Ric Flair doesn't have a part on one of these CBS cop shows, or Stone Cold Steve Austin isn't doing like a really dope buddy cop film for Universal, is just crazy to me. It's crazy. So that's what I'm pissed. I wish Hollywood would finally understand the value of wrestling.
It is weird, isn't it? Because the skills are completely transferable. Surely from professional wrestling in terms of getting a script, having to follow that script, maybe ad-libbing from here from place to place. But yeah, it does seem weird that more wrestlers don't get into acting on a big level. I know obviously WWE do their own films and stuff like that, but on a rock level, I think John Cena's maybe getting there. Is that fair to say? I'm not too sure.
No, he's definitely getting there. He's doing great stuff. It's hilarious. But yeah, for sure, there should be more. I mean, I don't know why WWE has WWE films, but I don't know why they just don't have like, just a slate of films, like not as high budget. And you could just do 10 of them and put all of your roster in it and mix it in with some really great actors that, can, for some of the people who are doing films for the first time, just kind of help, when you work with, it's like when you're going to wrestling, right? All my best matches are with wrestlers who are really great because they make you look good. They know what they're doing. They like calm you down. But yeah, so I don't know why they just don't do that. And then you could get everybody health insurance and
you're opening a can of worms here.
I know, but I mean, I'm thinking that yeah, it'd be great if they got them health insurance, but you can get them into SAG. You know what I mean? It's a pretty great health insurance company if you can do it. If you just think of it, like even the fact that on their, half the days, all these people are backstage, all this talent is just sitting there. Like, why don't they do like a Larry David type kind of funny show, like behind the scenes, like just interact, like have people do fun stuff while they're all sitting around. If they're not getting on stage that night, like give them another opportunity. They're all under contract anyway. So that's just what I wish both sides would get.
Yeah, and I was watching your interview with our pal Chris Van Vliet recently, and you spoke about how you want to sort of bridge that gap between wrestling and movies by getting wrestlers acting roles. So the natural thing to happen here, surely, is for Ready to Rumble 2 to happen and you to spearhead this movement. It's got to happen. It makes too much sense.
I know. I wish it would, man. It would be amazing. I would love that. I mean, I really enjoyed the film too, and it's taking on this kind of cult classic, element where people discovered it and it's lived on. So I just never know. I don't understand. I mean, I talk a lot of trash, I just gotta, talk from my heart. I don't mean to like seem like I'm gonna bridge the gap but I was Mick Foley was nice enough to be in a movie we did called 12-Hour Shift, and he was brilliant in it. And I just got to work with Joseph Rudd too on this new film we have coming out called Ghost of the Ozarks, who was Eric Rowan at WWE. So I love being able to work with wrestlers in films, and when I have the opportunity, I try to do it.
And just quickly, because I can see the clock's running down, let's get your fifth and final entry to hell out there in the world.
All the wrestling haters, all those haters on the internet, all of you guys, you're going straight to hell. And anyone who says that I had anything to do with killing WCW, go see You Cannot Kill David Arquette. And, you'll know that it wasn't my fault, but it's really all the just haters. There's some people in wrestling that are just, you know what it is, like a lot of them like love the heel like a baby face, you know what I mean? It's like they love it. And I love a good heel, don't get me wrong. Roddy Piper, Bobby the Brain, I mean the way they make you like, but I love them because I hate them so much. These people love them because they love mean people. They like love being miserable and angry. They love being assholes. So.
Yeah, I mean, like when we review wrestling and we don't hear a Cultaholic and we don't like something, it's always done with a tongue in the cheek. It's always done, we don't like it, but it's not the end of the world. There's bigger issues going on. But for some people, it would seem that that's the biggest issue in their lives, and they like to make you know that.
Yeah, I mean, people that are heels in their real lives, oh man, that's tough. I've done it. It's a tough road.
And so there we have it. I don't think any more needs to be said there, David. I think thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Had a great time talking to you today. I still can't believe I'm sat here speaking to the law. I think the plan is for us to publish this video the day after the movie goes live around the world. So could you tell everybody where they can see it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure where you can see it. No, it's gonna be over there. I don't know on Sky. It might be on Sky. I don't know. I don't know where it's gonna be. I'm not sure.
We'll do a Google and we'll put all the details in the description down below, so don't worry about that. You can catch... Go on.
Good, because if you don't, I will bust you!
I can't believe that's just happened. David, thank you so much. You Cannot Kill David Arquette. Make sure you go and watch it. It's essential viewing, whether you like wrestling or not, and of course we all like wrestling here, so go and watch it. David, thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it,
Cheers. Thank you.